Rosenthal offered to have his beautiful 1912 Touring on loan and on display at the museum. If you haven't seen it yet, it's across the street. It's just a fabulous Model T. And the brass work on it is just amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And so when we approached him, if he would be willing to share the knowledge and the things that he's learned over the years in working on the restoration, he was very kind to offer his time. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Thanks for coming out, folks. Hope the weather's going to be conducive when we get out of here. I know a number of you folks like us come from a few hours away, so we're down in Cincinnati. But we're about 2 hours out. But I'd just like to run through the group here, if you would mind, just announce yourself, and if you got a comment or two about a project that you brought, just so folks know who brought what.
I'm Vic Tankersley. I'm from London, Ohio. Got a good-looking wife. She's at home. But I need something that somebody's going to have. I got a 13 roadster I'm putting together. I can't find the windshield outside hinges. I would even buy the whole windshield to get it. Right? So everybody knows where I can find one. I appreciate it.
Oh, Mark Zimmerly, I'm a fairly new guy in the club, 2-3 years, something like that. I don't even own a T. I've been collecting T tools over 45, 50 years, something like that. Myself, I'm very big into antique boating and outboard motors in the teens and so forth. I've always wanted a T, but something I found out is that my legs are long. I have a problem getting in a T, let alone driving it. So, you know, I don't want amputation or something like that, so I gotta figure that one out first. The early T's seem, maybe I can fit in those. I'm 16 older, so I might have to look that way.
My name's John. I'm into the hobby because of Don. I'm former military, retired, and looking for something to do, and there's a lot to do with cars. We got a Sears and a T, and he's got a whole fleet that it's kind of my job to probably keep up. So brass is kind of one of my hobbies, mostly polishing, but I want to learn how to fix it and just be his apprentice. He's the master.
Hi, I'm Don Paul, and I brought John here with us. I have a 24T touring car. I also have a couple of Maxwells and a Sears and a Model A. I have one of those. Anyway, got involved in this about 10 years ago, and the more I learn, the more I want to learn. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Dave Johnson. I'm a return car, and I'm just here with it. See what I can find out.
I'm Gary Kramer. I'm one of the ones that helped put some of this together around here and give you a tour on the other side. And I spend about half my life down here right now. So I'm like Dave, I just want to see how you do stuff. I don't think I can do it, but I want to see how you do it. So.
We'll see how somebody else does it.
Yeah.
Brian Jordan. I just came, brought a windshield frame to show you what not to buy because it's not repairable. Kind of an example, but I just want to learn more about brass. I want to eventually end up with a brass car. I just haven't got there yet. So.
I'm Dave Knowlting. This is my grandson, Alex. Alex was really interested in coming along today, so he's here. He attends a lot of swap meets with me and such. He and his brother both. Alex is a 4th generation Model T owner. He's got a Speedster at home that we're collecting parts for. I've got Model Ts, I think 4 of them right now from 14 to 26, and his daddy's got a couple, and just wanted to learn about the brass, do a lot of other things, and just come to see what we could learn.
My name's Jim Hayes. I used to have several Model Ts till a guy got them off of me. Well, I got sick and I didn't think I'd ever be able to drive them again, and so I let them go now. He says I can borrow them. That's what I'll have to do.
That's a better deal.
That's a better deal.
My name is Vic Ihorn. I have several Model Ts.
Yes.
I have a 15, it's a brass era, so I come in to see what's how to work on it.
I'm John Crane, I'm from Rochester, Michigan. I have a couple Model A's. I have a 25T truck, very similar to the one sitting out there, and I have a Sears.
Oh, very good.
I figured the odds of 2 Sears people, you know. There's only 4 of them around. But I'm just here to learn. Thank you very much.
I'm Mark Finley, Rochester also, came with John. I had a 14T that I garbage picked, and then...
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And then
Out by the road.
today, I currently have a 27 four-door that I'm turning into a real everyday driver that I plan on, driving a lot. So that's my little collection.
My name's Chad Budrow. I have a 23-24 Tudor. Had that for about 10 years maybe. And timing's great for this. Maybe about 4 or 5 months ago I picked up a second T. It's a brass Speedster 15. So timing's great to learn all about brass.
I'm Clark Deacon from St. Louis. I have my grandfather's tour about. I'm hoping to get the horn put back together and get the original horn back on it.
Travis Thompson, we have a 13 touring that my grandfather, her father, had for many years, and it's due for some TLC, so we're doing that.
Dittos.
Your name? Your
Oh,
name's not
my
Travis.
name, I'm sorry, yeah. I do have a name, Connie Thompson.
Bob Thompson, ditto.
Patrick Goss, no Model T, but my father in the last year has picked up a couple and he drugged me along. We're brass car guys forever though.
Yeah, Patrick probably has the best one in our group. He's got a 10 Maxwell G, which is a pretty significant Maxwell. It's a toy to know. It's got a removable rear body. Pretty neat car. Anyway, project I brought one of the cowl lamps off of my 08 Maxwell. The little pin that keeps the door latched on the cowl lamp has wore through the side of the brass piece that holds it, so it needs repaired. And that's the main project I brought. Something that we also brought was we have the stamps that stamp out the Maxwell name on the radiator of a Maxwell. And we've never used them. We got these from somebody else, and so we needed a little bit of input as to what it's going to take to put those to use so Maxwell guys can have their radiators with a nice fresh stamp of Maxwell on them. And we got some more projects, but that's enough.
My name is Tim Sattler from the Scots. Mostly just a set of hands to assist Scott here today. Don't own a T. I own a 56 Chevrolet that I inherited back in '78. Second owner of it. Just like I said, I'm just basically here. Anybody needs assistance while they're working on a project, Scott needs assistance, that's what I'm here for.
And Justin is in the back here. All right. Well, in addition to discussing repairs, which we're going to get into here in a second, I want to spend some time today discussing various fabrication technologies. I won't derail the discussion onto that just yet, but I think where I'd like to start with regard to the parks lamps is the lamp back here that's got the hinge issue. As noted, the issue is fairly simple. The door is intact. The keeper for the pin has simply seen better days, and depending on how authentic this wants to look when it's all put together, I should think it's a fairly simple repair. I'm going to propose a fix, and then I'd like to ask for comments. Okay, so this has just got a cylindrical brass keeper. My expectation is that this brass collar, which has now been eroded on one side here, could be simply veneered with a new brass sleeve over it. I brought an interesting product with me that I think might be useful for this as well, and that is a cold solder paste that's actually I think used in the jewelry industry. And I'm just curious whether we couldn't roll a brass sleeve out of some of this scrap that I've got here and cold solder that into place.
Works for me.
Comments?
Do you use a radiator brass? Do you use a radiator brass to make that sleeve out of?
This is
Or a shim brass?
this is just cartridge brass that it's 20 thousandths thick.
It comes in a roll? Oh,
This actually comes in sheets. I bought this out of McMaster Car.
okay.
And we can use that, or we can use some of the original material that are on these cast-offs here. A friend of mine was kind enough years ago, when I told him I wanted to get into brass, he said, well, take this box home with you. I'll tell you what, I've used enough stuff out of this, it's saved me on a couple of occasions, so that is certainly at your disposal for this. If that's what you think we ought to be doing with it, I'll propose.
What, I don't understand cold solder, what's?
Your metal would be cleaned as you would prep for like a plumbing solder application. The cold solder, I believe, is nothing more than powderized solder mixed in with flux. You smear it on for applications where you can't get your solder stick to the part. Let's say you have a hidden area where you can apply heat from the back, but you can't really see the part or access the part that you're trying to fasten.
So you still use heat?
You still use heat.
Okay.
Exactly. And you would have the same preparation. That is, we'd have to burnish this down to a bare metal. We'd want to put well, I guess we wouldn't need the flux if it's got the flux in it. I've never used the product, so.
So you can just basically take it and smear it on there, or brush it on there, put it together, and then apply a little heat.
We could do that, or we could tin this part. That is, we could apply a film of conventional plumber solder on both pieces, snap it together, blast it with heat, and cross fingers, right?
That would be the same job.
So,
Hey, Scott?
yeah.
Can the glass handle the heat?
We would mask it. That is, we would isolate areas that we don't want the heat to access. And on this part, I should think we could do something as simple as paper towel, wetted paper towel over the perimeter of the work. And we'll get into a little bit more discussion about isolating as we're talking about taking lamps apart, side lamp demonstration that I've got.
Now, do you use flame heat, or do you use like a soldering iron, or?
I should think we could use a soldering iron on this. I'm not sure what amount of heat is necessary to activate this material, but I thought we'd maybe just do a little scrap, a couple pieces of scrap before we put it to the victim here. What do you think? Okay. Was that something you'd care to do the arm work on?
How about you, Pat? I'll do it.
All right, we've had a change of plans here on the fix for the hinge retainer on this lamp. These gentlemen looked a little bit closer and discovered that the part is actually soldered on, where we think we could release it, and we're going to make a new one. This early door part happened to have pretty much the same geometry, the same diameter pin, and that's going to be replacing what we put in here. And I think the only recordable we'll need here is just where the top of that is relative to the bottom of the door, and looks like it's 1 5/16 to me. Just so we make sure we're patching it up. We're going to use this industrial soldering iron to try and release this solder, as opposed to putting a torch against it, because we're concerned about the heat. Even though we probably could just mask this piece of glass with a wetted towel. Let's see what happens with the soldering iron versus the torch. Okay, so, I'm sorry, what has happened with the repair is that, the, solder piece, was, cut to size. We tinned both sides, the part that we were attaching and the parent material, soldered it together. We had to go back and do a retouch on that because I screwed it up, I had it a little skewed. So we got it heated back up, straightened out, and the final trim work was necessary because we just didn't trim the part exactly to size before we put it together. I think it's a great looking repair.
Yeah.